Hey, friends, and welcome back to the Lazy Budget Travel Tips podcast. In today's episode, my mom, Gloria, and I are diving into part two of our European Christmas market adventure. We're talking about Berlin, Munich, a day trip to Salzburg, and wrapping it all up in Paris. You'll hear what we loved, what totally surprised us, the snacks we couldn't stop eating, and the drinks we wouldn't try again. Plus, I'm sharing how we saved money on transportation, which markets were actually worth it, and what I do differently next time. If you've ever dreamed of visiting Europe during the holidays or just want to live through the chaos and charm with us, make sure to stick around till the end. So let's jump in. Hey, Mom, thanks for joining me again for part two.
Hi, it's good to be here.
All right, so last time we left off on landing in Berlin and staying at the Moxie. The Moxie had late checkout at noon, which we slept in till 11 and hurried to get ready and head back to the hotel that we'd be staying in for the next 2 nights in Berlin. So whenever we stay in Europe, I usually don't do Uber. I know that some countries have Uber, but I prefer to do like a free now taxi. We use that a lot in Spain. Also, Bolt taxi, BOLT, kind of reminds me of Lyft a little bit, even though it's still a tax, there's still taxis. I kind of like to compare between the two of them. And then also there's Cabify, but when we were in Spain, I couldn't use Cabify, so I didn't even try. I don't even know if they're in Germany, but Cabify is another one that a lot of people talk about. But I remember when I tried to sign up for that one, it wouldn't send me the code in order to create an account, and it was because they don't operate in the US, so therefore they don't send codes. I don't know. It was weird. But so basically, we got up and I was able to get a Bolt taxi to our hotel where we were staying for the next 2 nights in Berlin. You already got into how we decided where we were going to stay in Berlin as far as location, like what part of the city. But from there, I looked at hotels to see which ones would be in that area. I didn't really use points for the rest of the time that we were in Europe for this trip. I really focused on being strategic about where we were staying and when we were going. So just because we were able to go early December, right after Thanksgiving, the markets were just opening up. It was it was easier to get a hotel for a good price. And we ended up staying at the H10 Berlin Kudamm. And that's the area that you had said had the big shopping boulevard and stuff. And H10 is not a hotel chain people have probably heard of, but we discovered it when we were in Spain. I believe they're based out of Spain. We did see them a lot there, and they're really nice hotels. And so I was able to get us a room there for pretty affordable. And like we mentioned before in the first episode, we're only 5 minutes away from one of the main markets that we were going to be visiting. So when we checked into the H10 Berlin Kudamm, we ended up paying only $285 for both nights, which is really good for such a nice room and such a great location. I mean, when we walked in, I was pretty impressed with how nice it was. What about you, Mom?
Yes, it was very pretty.
Modern.
Yeah, the hotel was very nice. It was very open, very modern. It had a very clean look. And when you walk in, right before you get to the lobby, they had this area where they had the Berlin Bear, which Berlin is known for that. When you go to Berlin, they talk a lot about the Berlin Bear. So there was like a tall statue right there. And you find them in different parts of Berlin with different art to it. This one was really nice, decorated.
It
So
was pretty colorful.
yes, very colorful. And when you walk past that area, then you're in the lobby area. And it just gave you like a very nice feeling.
It was very welcoming.
Yes, that's the word. Yes. And yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah, and they do have a loyalty program, so I decided to join that. I always join the loyalty program regardless, just in case, and a lot of times you get perks just for joining. Like, this is our first time staying at an H10, and we got complimentary welcome drink coupons upon arrival. We got some cookies. So before we get into the Christmas markets and stuff, I do want to talk about the big bus. So we did do the big bus tour in Berlin, and I actually didn't book it through Viator. And at the time, it was around like Black Friday when I was booking it because we traveled right after Thanksgiving, and I ended up booking this a few weeks in advance. Viator was 12% back on Rakuten. And so I looked at Big Bus and they were doing a Black Friday special, and it turned out that it was actually going to be the same price. On Viator, it was one price. But for the Black Friday special on the Big Bus site, for the same price as the one I would get on Viator, I could get a higher tier ticket, which included a walking tour and a complimentary night tour, which we took advantage of. So I decided that instead of booking it on Viator, I would book it direct with Big Bus, get 5% back on Rakuten. We love doing the Big Bus because not only is it a tour, but it's also transportation. So we saved on that without needing to walk everywhere, although we did do a lot of walking. We ended up paying $42 per person for a 48-hour Explore ticket. Many people get caught up with the percentage back on Rakuten and they don't even look at how much it is directly on the website. For us, this worked out better. We got more for the money that we spent. So, just something to get you guys thinking a little bit more strategic. Don't fall for the extra percent off or the extra cash back percentage. That doesn't always mean that it's the best deal. Always compare prices. I still shop through Rakuten. I got my percentage back, and I think Rakuten's great. But I also think that people do fall into a trap with it. So, Mom, tell us about what we did that day, the markets that we visited, and why you chose those.
Yeah, well, we got to the hotel and we started walking to the boulevard and just went down to that area where that memorial church is.
The Wilhelm Memorial Church.
Yeah, the Kaiser. Yeah, because it was named after the emperor at that time. There is a plaza, and it's a large Christmas market in that area, and they created around that square and that church. Decided to go inside the memorial church. So we went inside, and a section of the church has an exhibit of the history of the church. And also, when in World War II, when the Allies bombed Berlin, the church was damaged. So, what they decided to do was to leave the top portion the way it ruined and fix the rest of the church because it's still a functioning church as a memorial to peace. So, that was a piece of history that I read about and I wanted to see.
I usually get really bored with that stuff, but this one had a really nice exhibit.
It
It
was
was
very
cool to
nice and
see.
it was free. So we did that, and then we walked outside of the Christmas market area and took the big bus.
Yeah, so for the Big Bus Berlin, there are two routes, one red and one blue. And the hotel that we were staying at was closest to stop 10 on the red route, which was the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church. And the stop 10 is Kudam. And then we got off where the blue route and the red route meet, which is at Alexanderplatz, which is in East Berlin. You said that there was a cluster of markets around there.
Yes, they were walking distance from each other.
So tell us why you wanted to do Alexanderplatz.
It was in a big shopping area. It had the traditional stuff that I was looking for. It had very nice traditional Christmas decorations because I found that some of the Christmas markets were just tents. And I wanted more traditional in terms of the stall being made out of wood and then some of them were decorated like a Christmas tree. So that's what I was looking for. And near the TV tower, that is very historical, built at the time where Russia's regime took control over East Berlin. So I picked that also for that reason. And then walking distance, we would go to their city hall, which was a red brick structure, very pretty. And they had a Christmas market there. And then from there, there was another Christmas market, which way back was their palace, and they made it into a cultural center where you could go and see art, but right in front of it in the courtyard, they had lights and figures projected against the building. It was like a winter wonderland. So that's what I was looking for. And it was right across from the Berlin church. So we got to see the church.
Mhm. I'm really grateful that you did all that research on all the Christmas markets, especially knowing now that there's 60 to 70, I read somewhere over 80 markets in Berlin because you knew kind of the feel and the vibe that we were going for. And I have to say that all of the markets we visited in Germany, they were quintessential in the way that I imagined it to be. Booths were wooden. It looked really traditional, really cute. There was an ice skating rink there at Alexanderplatz. It was a huge market. There was a Ferris wheel. It was beautiful. And they even had these tower looking things that were really festive. What were they called?
The Christmas pyramid. Every market had its own version. It was
And
very nice.
And we were there when it was kind of lit up at night, and so it was really pretty. It's like when you walk into the markets, it was one of the things that just gave me this feeling of the holidays.
Yeah, it draws you in. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I don't know how you feel about this, but thinking about the other markets that we went to later on in the trip, I thought that first day was the best food of the trip. What do you think?
Yeah, it felt like what we had hoped for out of the Christmas market.
Yeah, so before we get into like what we ate and specifically the things that we really liked, I do want to mention how in doing our research, we did hear that you needed to have cash, and that is so, so true. Cash is king at these markets, especially the food booths. They do not take card. The only thing is that some of the places where you could get your souvenirs would take card, but there would be a sign so you would know walking up whether or not they took card. But everywhere else, it was definitely cash. So we had to have plenty of cash with us. One of the things that I found really interesting that we don't do here in the US, which I think we should, is at all of these markets they required you to give a deposit. So if you were getting a drink, you had to give a deposit for the mug. If you were ordering food and they gave you plastic, there was no single use stuff there. If you ordered a soda, it was in a glass bottle and you had to pay a deposit for it so that you would return it. They would give you your food on plastic plates with plastic silverware. You had to pay a deposit for that so that you would give it back. I just thought that that was really cool. And I have some pictures on my Instagram stories of the signs. Some of it was in English, some of it was not. For example, if you were getting a meal and it was 10 euros and they had a deposit for the plasticware, that would be like 2 euros. Or the drinks, I mean, some people talk about you could keep your mug for 2 euros, and no. For us, it was always 5 euros. So if a drink was $10, you would be paying $15. And then it was really easy to get your money back. If you wanted, you could go bring whatever it was. If it was a glass bottle, if it was a plastic plate, if it was a mug, you give it and they would immediately give you your money. It was very easy. So that was something that we were prepared for, but, something that people would always ask about. So I just wanted to validate that. And then also, I saw in a lot of Facebook groups, there was a lot of controversy around like whether or not you really should be keeping your mug or if you should be returning it and asking if you can purchase it. I didn't really feel that. I don't think anyone expected you to bring your mug back if you had planned on keeping it. I know some people talk about bringing it back to get it cleaned. We never did that because we were always on the go and we were not going to walk back if we were planning on keeping that mug, right? So it was definitely acceptable if you wanted to keep your mug to go ahead and do that. You didn't have to bring it back. I was very excited about the drinks. I love eggnog. I'm a big eggnog fan. And in Puerto Rico for Christmas, they serve coquito, which is another form of eggnog with alcohol in it. You can get it without alcohol, of course. So when I saw they had a menu, one of them was Eierpunsch. I think that's how you say it. And it's basically an egg punch. And how it was described to me via the internet is that it was like an eggnog. So I was very excited. When we purchased it, it came in a beautiful frosted mug, which is not the traditional mugs that we had thought we were going to get. But we were in Berlin. This was our first experience. So we were just like, oh, these are so pretty, beautiful mugs. And I posted a picture of it on Instagram and I said it was disgusting. It was disgusting. I did not enjoy it whatsoever.
You think because they serve it hot or the drink itself didn't taste
That's
good?
true.
I
They,
personally like it, but
they did serve it warm because it's cold.
right, or
That's just
hot.
how it is. Like they're hot or warm. I just think it was disgusting. Like it wasn't it did not taste like eggnog. It did not. It wasn't remotely like eggnog. So I did not enjoy it. I actually didn't really love any of the drinks.
They served it with whipped
Sorry.
cream. Remember that?
Oh, yes. They serve a lot of the drinks with whipped cream. And you know what? I didn't really like a lot of the drinks, but I don't think we really got a lot of drinks because I wasn't really trying to get drunk or anything. And, we tried a few different drinks. They were okay. It was just one of those things that we were just kind of trying to be festive. So, yeah, the first drink that we got, it was beautiful. I remember walking up to you with the drink and being like, oh my God, look, this is so cute. And I'm sure I made a hilarious face. I think it went from excitement to dread, like, oh my God, what the hell is this? So tell us about the food that you really enjoy that we got. I know for me, I had to get my bratwurst. I love a good brat, and they have all different types of meat. I just got a lot of pork and beef and
That was good. That was delicious.
so we didn't enjoy the first drink that we got, but we did enjoy the food. So let's talk about the gingerbread that you got. It's not like the gingerbread that we have here. They call it a Lebkuchen, but it's basically gingerbread.
Right. I really enjoy that gingerbread. It was nothing that you can get here in the States. It has the spices that you would think a gingerbread would have because of its name. It checked all the boxes. You could get a chocolate cover or a glaze. It fulfilled all those boxes for me. Another item I was looking for was the pretzel, like a good pretzel.
Oh yeah, you got to get a pretzel in Germany for sure.
Yeah. You usually get a
The
pretzel with beer.
Yeah, so for the pretzel, I saw it was bretzel, Brezel. And then we also got potato pancakes. That was one of the ones where they gave it to me and with the plastic plate
Yeah,
that we
the
needed.
deposit. I
We
always say
all,
get it with applesauce, but you don't like applesauce. And I think that traditionally that's how you should get it as
what's
substitute.
funny is that when we would go to the German club in in Florida, they would have the potato pancakes at Oktoberfest, and they were always served with sour cream and applesauce. And I never ate the applesauce because I'm not a big applesauce fan. And then when we would go to the Christkindl market, I would ask about the potato pancakes, and they were like, "No, we don't do that for Christkindl market." Like, I think they were trying to say that's not really traditional; it's just like an Oktoberfest thing. But we saw potato pancakes a lot. But actually, when we got the potato pancakes, they weren't like the pancakes we're used to. They were huge and they were very light. And they had several sauces that you could get with it. And I ended up getting a white sauce, but it wasn't sour cream. It was more like an herb, more like a garlic herb sauce. It was really good though. So sorry if you want an applesauce. No thanks. Keeping with the food thing, we also got what they call langos, which was interesting. It was kind of like a pizza, but not really because the crust, if you will, the bread, it had the texture of a funnel cake, and then they had some sour cream or something. It was kind of like an elephant ear, but with toppings. We ended up getting one that had sour cream on it with cheese and ham. I have pictures of the food that we got on the Instagram stories, and it was pretty tasty.
Yeah, it was very good.
Yeah, most of the food that we got in Berlin at those markets was really good. But another thing, so here's my thing when it comes to this type of food in these environments. I'm not a picky eater. I'm just particular. I like fresh food. And I will say that at these markets in Berlin, there were some booths that had really fresh food, and then other ones, not so much. Anytime I see food that's just laying out there for hours and hours, it looks like it's been there all day, I'm not eating there. So we passed by this Käsespätzle booth, which if you don't know what Käsespätzle is, it's like basically mac and cheese, and mac and cheese is literally my favorite food on the planet.
Right, that was by the city hall.
Okay. So we walked by it and I saw that they were making this to order. They had the pasta or the spätzle, whatever it's called. They had that, but then they had these skillets that they would put it in with like oil and they would put the cheese. And I think I actually got mine plain, but then somebody took mine. So they ended up giving me one with ham and they were like, that's okay, just take it. And it was really good. That's hands down my favorite thing that we had the entire time. It was good.
Yep, very good. It was creamy and nice and hot.
I love it when the food is hot and fresh, especially since it was cold, man. So definitely something to keep an eye out. I think people don't really think about, oh, that food has been there for a while. I'm always like eagle-eyeing.
And then I love almonds, and we found these candy cover almonds. That's
Oh, yeah.
traditional.
It was similar to like getting roasted almonds at the fair. I can say with confidence that we found a lot of great options in Berlin for food.
Yeah, for our first day, it was the word you like to use, magical.
It was magical. It was nice because I think that first day we were kind of like, okay, this is what we were expecting. The only thing that we were pretty surprised that everywhere we went, we saw frosted mugs. Well, don't you show them what I'm talking about when I say a frosted mug? Put it in the camera. If you're watching this on YouTube. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so you guys can see what the frosted mugs look like. They're very pretty. It just wasn't what we were kind of thinking of when we thought of the mugs. So that first day, we kind of stayed around the Alexanderplatz area, and that was because included in our ticket was the guided evening tour.
Yeah, so it started at 6. So we had time to go to the 3 Christmas markets, check it out, all the stuff that we wanted to do. And then we went back to stop 1. The evening tour had a different route compared to the one during the day, different stops. The evening one, you didn't get off. It was just a tour, and it took us to other parts of Berlin that we didn't see during the day. So that was worth the trip because we got to see other areas.
So after we did the bus tour, they took us back to Alexanderplatz, and then we ended up getting a taxi back over to West Berlin. And then we decided that we were going to walk over to the Wilhelm Church and spend the evening in that market. What I really enjoyed is that they had all these markets set up so cute. They had these clear tents for some of these bars where they just had a few wooden benches and tables and beautiful lights. It was just like a really cool ambiance. And so we were sitting there. We had ordered a drink. One of the things that's really traditional at these markets, that's glue wine or glue. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but it's basically If you're not familiar, it's mulled wine. And when we would go to the Christkindl market, that was one thing that we had never heard of before. And it's basically just warm wine with spices and stuff. And it's just like another thing that just kind of warms you up and makes you feel super festive and gets you into the holiday spirit. And so they had, of course, glue wine available at this bar, but then they also had a lot of different liqueurs that you could get in them. So we ended up getting amaretto, and we're sitting there, and there was three women from the UK. They looked like they were having a great time, like a girls' trip or something. So we started talking to them and asking them about the mugs because, like we said earlier, we were really surprised. Everywhere we went was frosted mugs in Berlin. And we were kind of concerned. I ended up showing them the mugs on Instagram, and I'm like, these are the mugs we're expecting. And they're like, oh, I don't know. We've only seen the frosted mugs. Maybe they're trying to show you mugs from previous years. They had heard that some markets were trying to get rid of previous years because of COVID. And I was like, oh my gosh, I hope not. But I had a feeling that once we got to Munich that it would be more traditional because although they were very beautiful, they just weren't the vibe we were going for. One of the other food items that we ended up getting that night was, didn't you want to get the donuts?
Yes, we did get that in East Berlin. I saw a lot of the videos. These buy donuts with powder, sugar
Yeah,
on
I think
them.
it's like called Schmalzkuchen or something. I don't know, guys. I cannot pronounce any of these German words, but I love donuts, so I was down for the donuts.
They were very good. They gave us like
It
a
was a
whole
huge
bag.
bag. We could not finish it. We ended up taking it to the hotel, and then I had them for breakfast the next day.
Yeah, they were still fresh.
Hmm.
Um, they accomplished a lot. We were tired, like you said, we walked a lot. So, though, of course, when we got back to West Berlin near the hotel, we had to walk that market, that Christmas market, and that's where we finally sat down. And then it started to rain.
Did?
Didn't stop people. It didn't stop us either. And we bump into those ladies again.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
we did. I forgot
yeah,
about
as we
that.
were walking through the market and looking at the Christmas ornaments.
Oh, I remember bumping into them, and I remember seeing them and being like, oh, look, we found a mug that wasn't frosted.
Right. It was like the nutcracker. It was very
Mm.
cute, but we decided we didn't want that. That's not what we were looking for. So we
Oh.
didn't buy it, but we did see a different type of mug.
So the next day, it wasn't really about the markets as much. It was more about going on the bus and seeing the sights.
So the next day we got the bus, stop 10, and there was one other Christmas market that I saw was, I think, in their business district area because it had the
Was it Potsdam?
skyscraper. Yes,
Pot-
it was more of their industrial business. The Mall of Berlin wasn't too far from there, so we did stop and check out that Christmas market. And that Christmas market had that big slide that was a little
Oh,
different from
yes.
East Berlin. East
I
Berlin, we saw the
remember
big
now.
Ferris wheel, but this had a big slide. That was the attraction. And it also had the traditional wooden stalls that we were looking for. So we stopped there and then we got back on the bus. And we didn't get off, but we got to see Checkpoint Charlie, which is very historical, where it
Charlie
was
checkpoint.
to move from east to west, and you had to go through that checkpoint. But where I really wanted to get off was
The Brandenburg Gate. That was
yes,
cool. They had a nice Christmas tree there.
yes, I read that they had a Christmas tree there. So we got off there. We took pictures in front of the Christmas tree, and that's very historical. That's been there since the 1600s. And that was also a point dividing east to west at that point during that period after World War II, where no one was allowed near that gate. It was, they had closed it off. It felt like in the East Berlin section of it. So that's very historical. I wanted to see it. Not too far from there, they have their parliament. We didn't go there, but it wasn't too far. We saw it from the bus. So we got to see a lot of stuff, and we also got off where we could go near the Berlin Wall. There's a section of the Berlin Wall which they made it like an open art gallery where they had artists from all over the country and paint murals on that section of the Berlin Wall, and we got to get off the bus and walk to it. So that was kind of cool to do. And just from the bus, we saw other sites. So that's what we did that second day.
So after 2 days, it was time for us to fly to Munich. So we flew out of the Berlin airport. I had booked our tickets with Lufthansa, which isn't a budget airline, but we did get a pretty good price. We paid $96 per person and we booked the economy light fare. And then I paid 20 euros to check mom's bag because we were at that point starting to accumulate souvenirs. So we like to bring foldable bags with us. You can get them at Target, they're in the luggage section. We use that to put in our souvenirs and we take those on the plane and then we check our suitcase. Actually, the bag drop off was really easy. We just got our bag tag and we were able to scan and drop the bag off. Very easy. Very nice airport.
Very nice.
Hey guys, it's Genni here. Sorry to interrupt. If you love the podcast, I've got a free budget travel 101 course to help you start saving on flights, hotels, and more. Grab it at travelingfranklins.com/budget travel 101 or check the show notes. Want to connect with other like-minded travelers? Join the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group. I share more tips, host live Q&As, and keep you up to date on the latest. And if you're looking to show your support, check out my affiliate links or buy me a coffee. Back to the episode. I do remember when we went to the Berlin airport that we were able to get into a priority pass lounge, and they had a really good spread of food. I put a picture in my Instagram stories if you want to look at the Christmas market highlight. You can see the food spread. They had a whole display of
Yeah,
pretzels
is
and
that the one with the individual private booth?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
that was
sat in a work booth instead of sitting
yeah.
at a table. Yeah, and they had like a conference room. It was nice. So the flight was short, about an hour, and then we were at the Munich airport.
So in searching Munich, I read that between Terminal 1 and 2, they have a Christmas market. They had a Christmas tree. They had the wooden stalls that we saw in Berlin. So I said to you, "Oh, when we land, we should check it out." So we walked around and we got some food and we sat down and we ate and enjoyed the Christmas market that was there for a while. And then we got our transportation to go into Munich.
Yeah, we actually ended up getting a mug from the Munich airport.
Yes,
Like we
yes,
showed,
that was a good sign that we were going to be successful and this time around with the kind of mugs that we were looking for. The drink that we got at the airport Christmas market, I wanted it to keep it. And so I thought it was very, very cute.
I thought it was very basic, and I was like, we don't really need to keep it, but you wanted to keep it. It wasn't frosted glass, so we were pretty excited
Right,
about it.
right, right.
So tell everyone about where we stayed in Munich. You were very specific in the area.
Yeah, we had 3 nights in Munich, but we had planned 1 day to do our day trip. So that only left us 2 days. So looking at the Christmas market in Munich, Munich was all tradition pretty much. And we had read that if that's what you're looking for, that was in Old Town, where the city at one point was surrounded by a wall. And there's 3 remaining gates and we stayed at a hotel near one of them, which had a Christmas market. And then also by that gate, there was the main shopping avenue.
Yeah. So we ended up staying at the Sendlinger Tor, which is the gate, and had a really small but so cute and beautiful with the lights and stuff Christmas market. And we ended up that first day getting a really cute mug. Show them that mug.
Yeah, of course, we got a drink and a very cute festive mug. So we kept this one our first day there. And the market was like 2 minutes from the hotel. It's just right there. So
Yeah,
that was
not even
our
2
other
minutes.
mug, our second mug that we got in Munich.
We ended up staying at the Hotel Mio by Amano, and it was a very trendy hotel. We paid $206 a night, so more money than when we stayed in Berlin. But the location, though, you can't beat it, man. The location was great. And another reason why you wanted that location was because it was near one of the largest and most famous markets in Munich, in Germany, which is Marienplatz. So, and we could walk. Like we said, guys, we don't like to waste time with transportations. I love, like, if you look at my pictures on my stories, when they know there's two people staying in the bed, they give two different comforters. I'm a blanket stealer, so I really liked that. So, let's talk about the day trip to Salzburg. So, on our second day, we decided that would be the best day. I did some research beforehand, and there were high-speed trains that could take you to Salzburg from Munich. It's about a 2-hour train ride. But in the research I was doing, a lot of people recommended getting the Bavarian train pass. As you know, Munich is in Bavaria. However, Salzburg is in Austria, which is not Bavaria. But from what I was reading, Salzburg was included with this Bavarian pass, or they call it the Bayern Ticket. And what I realized in my research is that the high-speed trains were not going to be that much faster than using the Bavarian ticket. The Bavarian ticket, you had to take local trains, which means that they were making several stops, but you weren't going to save that much time taking a high-speed train. And the Bavarian pass is extremely affordable, guys. Like, I'm so glad we did this and it ended up working, because not only were we able to get the train over to Salzburg, but it also included public transportation within Bavaria for the time frame that we chose. So, right next to our hotel was a metro station. So, we were able to use our pass to take the metro to the train station to get to Salzburg. So, that really worked out. We even asked the person at the front desk at our hotel to confirm this is where we go. And she was like, oh, yeah, that was a good idea to get the Bavarian pass. We ended up getting it for a 24-hour period. And what's different about the pass is that a group pass. I think it was up to 4 or 5 people that you could get on this pass. I recommend booking it online in advance. They give you very clear information. I wasn't confused when I read about what the ticket included. It tells you how many people is included with the pass, and you have to have their information prior to booking because they do check your ticket. So we ended up paying $43.70. That pass was for the both of us. And actually, if we had more people with us, it would have included those people too. So very, very affordable for not only the fact that it included public transportation in Bavaria, but also taking us to Salzburg. And like I said, Salzburg was about a 2-hour train ride. I do want to mention that the Bavarian Pass only lets you use the local trains, and it was a little confusing finding the train. I had done some research watching videos and reading, and they had mentioned that you have to walk past like all of the trains and then go outside to like another rail. Like there's a bunch of trains outside of the station, and that's where we would get the train. So at first we were like, okay, so we're gonna get a train at like 10 a.m. and then get back around like 5 or something. But then I think it was the day before I decided that we should really try to give ourselves as much time as possible. So we wanted to get an earlier train. And on the app, it was easy to figure out what train to get because you could say, okay, only local trains. Since we took the metro, that was easy. to get to the train station. But once we were in the train station, trying to find where we would get to outside to get to these trains was you know, a little stressful. I remember we made it just in time. I think we had like 5 minutes to spare before this train was going to take off. So, and I would recommend if you're going to be doing something like this, bring like, some water, some breakfast with you. I don't remember if we ended up doing that, but we were able to find seats right away, very comfortable seats. And very shortly after the train leaves, they come around and they check your tickets. We had our passports and we also had our tickets on the phone, and they checked it on the way there and they checked it on the way back. So it's definitely not one of those things where you kind of hope that they're not going to check your ticket. They definitely do, but we didn't have any issues. And then once we got to Salzburg, like I said, it was the last stop on that train. Once we got to Salzburg, I think, Mom, you were like, oh, we'll take a bus. But then I looked it up, and to get to where we wanted to get to in Salzburg, it was like a 10-15 minute walk. And we were going to have to wait for the bus in 10-15 minutes. And I'm like, no, like, let's just walk. I mean, we had to walk under a tunnel, which kind of felt a little sketchy. So I'm glad we went during the day. But I thought it was a pretty pleasant walk. I mean, what did you think?
It gave us a chance to see the town. So it was early. I figure we can walk it, and we found our first Christmas market.
Yeah, tell them what we ended up doing while we were in Salzburg.
Yeah, so there is an old town, and you got to walk over a bridge. But prior to that, there is this famous cafe. They're very famous for chocolate, and we stopped for hot chocolate and chocolates.
I think it's called First, Furst.
Yes, these chocolate balls that were named after Mozart. So there's other companies that imitated that type of chocolate, but they're the original. So I wanted to go to the famous original place, and since it was a little chilly, we got hot chocolate. I got hot chocolate. I think you got something else.
I probably got a cappuccino.
And then not far from that, we found one of the Christmas markets that I had looked into, which was just outside of the palace. And the palace has a garden, but right outside of that, there was a Christmas market.
Yeah, and actually we got a mug there. We didn't even
It's,
get a drink for that.
no, there was different rules in different places about these mugs, but we were able to purchase it without getting a drink, which was good.
And they even wrapped it up for us. Very nice.
Yes, they were very nice.
So after we were done with First, Furst, we walked across, and that's where we saw the first Christmas market right outside Mirabel Palace. We walked right into the garden, and there was actually a group there on a Sound of Music tour because that's where they filmed part of the movie, I believe.
Yes, there was a scene that dancing and singing in the garden by the palace.
Yeah, it was really cute. I mean, it was December, so you didn't really get to see much foliage.
Yeah, we walked right through it. That was pretty cool.
So yeah, some other highlights of Salzburg was visiting Mozart's birthplace, a yellow building, and in the area that we were definitely felt old, but it was really pretty and it was very festive, beautifully decorated. The Christmas markets were really nice in Salzburg. I definitely think it was worth the day trip 100%. What do you think?
Yeah, just like in Germany and Austria, it's very traditional. And the criteria that I was looking for a Christmas market, it was there. They were big. They took place by the big church there and also the other palace that was there. And we found different type of food there.
Yeah, I think I had deer sausage there.
So that was different.
And
And you
the Topen noodle, I don't know how to say it, guys, but it was kind of like cheesecake balls sort of things with
I think they
sauce on
describe
it.
it like a dumpling, but yeah.
Yes, it's a dumpling. Yeah, so it wasn't a super strong cheesecake taste. It was definitely different than what I thought it was going to be when I tasted it, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, so that was a surprise. We found different type of food there that we didn't even come across in our research. So that was another adventure there. I thought we were going to find the same type of food there,
Mhm.
but we were in Austria, so they have their own type of food. But they did have the Christmas decorations that we found in Berlin, the wood and the glass and the tin. And of course, I had to buy stuff there too. So they
Of
had all
course
that
you had
there.
to buy stuff there. I
Yeah.
mean, they had really pretty souvenirs.
And then we walk all of that Christmas market. And oh, since we had gone to the garden that they filmed The Sound of Music, and
Mhm.
we didn't do the tour because we didn't have time, but I wanted to go to St. Peter Church and the cemetery. That was the scene from the movie, but they didn't film it there. They filmed it in Hollywood, but it was based on the cemetery there. So I wanted to see the church and walk through the cemetery. So we did that too after we went through the Christmas markets.
That that's when we stumbled across that bar when we were looking for St. Peter's Church, and they had a bathroom that was really nice and air conditioned that you didn't have to pay for.
Yeah, we were pleasantly surprised if we didn't have to pay for the
Yeah.
bathroom.
It
And
was
there was a
really
lot of
cute.
people there.
A lot of people there enjoying their drinks. We walked through that, and then Domplatz, which was the cathedral,
Yeah, the church.
Residenplatz, which was the
Yeah.
palace. Those were the main highlights of Salzburg, and it was definitely a beautiful, magical experience. I think if you're in Munich, I would highly recommend, especially with the Bavarian Pass. It's super affordable. It's kind of like one of those things like, why the hell not?
Yeah. And it was pretty cool walking over the bridge and you could see the snow-top mountains. So it gave that extra Christmas magic.
It did. And we weren't really sure if we were going to do Salzburg. I kind of decided that as we were getting closer to the trip, when I had time to really decide. And once I figured out the Bavarian Pass thing, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm very glad we decided to do it. And then we ended up getting on the train around 4 or 5 to head back. And when we headed back, we went to dinner at a very traditional German restaurant near
It was a green market. The green
those near
market
the
that
grain
they have
market.
there that they have all year long, and they have a beer garden there. But of course, it closes early. But
Right.
right across, there was a restaurant that I had researched, and that's where we went directly from the train
Yeah.
station.
I don't remember how to pronounce it or whatever, but I can put it in the show notes. I can add a list of some of the stuff we're talking about. So why don't we talk about the things that we did in Munich?
Okay, so the main popular one, the square with the city hall, we definitely had to visit that one. In the courtyard, there was more Christmas stuff, and then down that avenue. And then near that, then there were other Christmas markets. Like the church had a Christmas market, and they're specialized in just wood ornaments.
Rinder Market?
Yes. That one was very pretty. It was smaller, but their wooden stalls on top, they had like Christmas decoration that told the story. Some of them were animals, some of them was like the sky. And so they also had that Christmas pyramid that we had talked about that we saw in
Mhm.
Berlin. They had a really pretty one there. So that one was very nice to visit. And then, of course, we went the next day to the palace one, which was
Mhm.
in their courtyard, and we got more stuff there. Also, I got more gingerbread, and we walked to another Christmas market that was not far from there. So essentially, these Christmas market in Old Town, you can easily walk to. And then we visit some of the historical churches that was there. There's a famous one there. And during World War II, the Allies made it, their plan was to use that as a focus point, like a target, and bomb everything in Munich around it. except for that because that was the highest point. So it's very famous. Also, is famous for the Satan print.
And that's the one that you had told me before, because I remember we walked into that one and people were like surrounded by this thing that looked like a foot. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, the story is that he was so mad that he couldn't destroy the church and that he stomped his foot and it left that footprint.
Okay, so just to go through the list of the things that we saw in Munich, it was Marienplatz, one of the largest markets, and that was really pretty and beautiful. Definitely like a storybook fairy tale. Oh, the clock tower there, that was the Glockenspiel. Why don't you tell them a little bit about that clock tower? All I remember is that you made me hold my phone up to take a video of it, and my freaking hands were gonna fall off. They were so cold.
So it rings twice in the day, and the first one is the 11 o'clock, and we got there just in time. And it's two-tier, and it goes around. The first one, it's a story about a wedding, and the second one, I put it in my Facebook, but I don't remember what it is. But it was very pretty and interesting to see.
A lot of people were standing there waiting for the clock tower little
Yeah, I saw a video where they say it's not advisable to walk through it.
walk through
Everybody's
the
standing.
market with everyone
Yes, have to
standing.
wait until it's done.
Yeah. I remember watching it and I was like, okay, it's just a bunch of really old figurine statues just going around in a circle. And then you told me that it was stories, and I'm like, what? But, I mean,
It was very cool. I liked it. Yeah. I was
to
looking
see.
forward to seeing it because I saw it in a video.
So then we also went to the medieval market, which was really small. It was the medieval market at Wittelboscherplatz. And then also Odeonplatz was another one that we stopped by in Munich as well. So that wraps up Munich. But before we talk about flying over to Paris, I did want to mention a hot tip for people who are like us, who are really interested in bringing the mugs home. Because I feel like a lot of people maybe don't think about the logistics of actually bringing mugs across the Atlantic. One thing that I didn't really know that you were going to do this, but I thought was really smart was to bring bubble wrap to wrap our mugs. Why don't you show them or tell them about how that came about?
Yes, I was watching a video. This couple was going from country to country and they were collecting the mugs. But then when they were packing it, they were hoping, oh, we hope it doesn't break. And the wife says, oh, we should have bought the
Bubble wrap.
bubble. And I said, that is a great idea. So every time we would have a package and had bubble wrap, I would save it. So the time that came to pack for the trip, I would fold it and put it in my backpack. So I had bubble wrap. So we just, we took the bubble wrap and we just wrapped it around. Yeah, and it came home safely.
None of our mugs broke, which I'm very happy about because that's definitely something that would happen to me.
Yeah. So I'm glad I saw that in a video because I didn't think of it. And when they mentioned it, I'm like, oh my God, that is a great idea.
All right, so that wraps up Germany. We did Berlin, we did Munich, that day trip to Salzburg.
I had a good time. I've always wanted to visit Berlin and Munich, and you were able to come up with a plan to include those. I think it was a great trip.
Yeah, I think doing Germany and doing Salzburg Christmas markets and then going to Paris probably was the wrong order in the sense that we had been on a pretty good high with the Christmas markets that we enjoyed in Germany. And then when we went to Paris, it kind of went downhill, but we'll get into that. So we flew from Munich to Paris. We flew on Lufthansa and we got an economy light fare and we ended up checking a bag. We paid $163 for two people. And then we also paid $35 for you to check your bag. So not bad at all. I remember when we were on that flight, it was a really full flight, and the flight attendant was saying how everyone wants to go to Paris for Christmas. So we were really excited because we had always dreamed about going to Paris for Christmas. So we only stayed 2 nights in Paris, and we stayed near the Louvre, which we didn't plan on going to the Louvre, but I believe we were staying there because that was near some of the stuff that you wanted to see. Is that correct?
Yes, the park or the garden, they had a Christmas market.
Oh, the Tuileries.
Yes.
Tuileries.
Yeah, they had a
Mm-hmm.
Christmas market there in very historical or popular place. They had a Christmas market across the Eiffel Tower.
So let's talk about the Christmas markets in Paris. They were definitely a lot different than what we had experienced in Germany.
Yes, correct. It was more like a fair. It was so different from Germany. They were decorated for Christmas, but they didn't have that feel like Germany did. But we did go on the big bus and
Oh
did
yeah, we
the
ended up doing the Christmas illuminations night tour. We
right.
thought it was going to be like a really festive Christmas thing, and I think the most festive thing they gave us was some like chocolates at the beginning, but it was really just a night tour, nothing about Christmas. I know that they say that Paris is the city of lights, and there really were a lot of lights, but it wasn't magical.
Yeah, there was a lot of lights. They were pretty. They went through a lot of places. They went to the past the Eiffel Tower. We saw it blinking. They passed by the famous department store that was all lit up. Of course, it was a nighttime, so you don't get off. But yeah, definitely their Virgin Christmas market was totally different from Germany. It like a fair, you have fun, there was rides and stuff like that, but this is not what we had expected,
Mm-mm.
especially just coming from Germany.
Yeah.
The lights were very pretty. I thought it was very pretty.
Yeah, no,
Very
the lights were really pretty, and you mentioned too, we ended up going to the famous department store, the Galeries Lafayette, which
yes.
was comparable to Macy's. The window displays were very festive. So, would you say that you were disappointed in Paris at Christmas?
Yeah, well, the Christmas markets that we went to, there was no Christmas ornaments or anything that I would purchase. There was no mugs to hunt.
Mm-mm. No mugs.
So it was totally different from Germany. So I was a little surprised, but I was still excited being in Paris. I got to see the Eiffel Tower again up close because we had walked to it. And then on the bus, I was excited for that, but I was surprised about the Christmas market, like Christmas in New York.
Yeah, it
So
was. It was definitely a different vibe than Germany. So I think we just had different expectations. Maybe our expectations were just a little off from what it actually was. What do you think in terms of going to the Christmas markets in Europe? What's your overall thoughts on the experience?
I loved it. Um, I would go to other towns in Germany, Austria too. I read that it's nice. It's just interesting. I'm glad we went to Paris to compare. I thought it was a great experience.
Thought it was a good experience as well. I know that you really love the shopping and the souvenirs and stuff. That's not really my thing. I am grateful for the experience, but for this Florida girl, Europe is just too cold in December. So, uh, getting home from Paris, I had told you guys before we were flying Air France, and we were checking our bags because we had bags of souvenirs to take home, and just finding the area where we needed to drop off our bags and then going through all the security. I remember we're going through the line. There was a separate area where they kind of like looked at us and all of our stuff because it looked like we had really heavy bags, but it was just really light souvenirs, but they looked really bulky. So I remember we're like just trying to get through the security line and they like eyeballed us and they're like, oh, nope, come over here. And we had to like put all our stuff on this like really, I don't know anyone who's listening to this, if you're like a Florida Publix person, but they would have at Publix, which is a grocery store, they would have these really old, rusty looking scales that you could step on and weigh yourself. And that's basically what they put our bags on. And they didn't do one bag at a time. They put all of our bags. And I don't know the weight that they were looking for, but they said we were okay. And I was like, okay. And we just moved on. But as far as the flight, I would say the planes with Air France are definitely newer than KLM. KLM was a little old, but we did get our two-seaters like we did on the way back, but the food wasn't very good. Nothing super memorable, but it doesn't matter because we got to go to Europe for the Christmas markets and it was a great experience. Okay, so let's wrap this episode up. Do some rapid fire questions. What was your favorite Christmas market?
Well, it would have to be Munich.
Marienplatz?
Yes.
Yeah. Munich, it was amazing. So festive. Definitely gave me the warm and fuzzies and kick-started the holiday spirit for me. So, what was the best thing that you ate?
The gingerbread, because I was looking forward to that. So I bought gingerbread in Berlin and Munich.
So good.
So we also forgot to mention that when we didn't want to drink, we got the kids punch. Yeah, that was pretty good.
So when we didn't want alcohol, which some of the times I was just like, I really don't want an alcoholic drink that I'm not sure I'm gonna like, but we wanted the mug because I remember in Munich specifically, they wouldn't let us buy the mug without getting a drink. So I ended up getting basically a kid's punch, a non-alcoholic punch. They called it the Kinder Punch. It was like a spiced cider, basically.
Yeah, yeah. So I like that.
So what would you say was the best mug design?
Well, I would have to say Munich.
Yeah,
I
that one
like
was
the
pretty.
shape, and I
Hmm.
like that it has the landscape
Yeah.
of Munich. It has that church that we talked about, and very festive. And I like the green color inside.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What city would you go back to in a heartbeat?
Well, I would go back to Berlin. There was other Christmas markets that I was interested in going, that I thought it was traditional. So I would go back.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I would go back to Germany in a heartbeat. Anyway, so that's a wrap on our European Christmas Market two-part episode. Huge thank you to my mom for joining me, not just for this podcast, but for being the OG trip planner in my life and inspiring so many adventures that I've taken.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. I thank you for always let me fulfill my dreams and travel. So I thank you.
Oh, well, no, I thank you for giving me those dreams as well. But anyway, so I hope for you guys, this gave you a little spark of inspiration to plan your own Christmas market trip. It really was one of the most magical trips we've ever taken, and it didn't require a huge budget to make it happen. Just some planning, a few points of miles, and a little holiday spirit. So, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the show so you don't miss what's coming up next. And if you've been to a Christmas market or you're hoping to go, I'd love to hear from you. Come say hi in the Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group or find me on Instagram. Let me know the destination that is at the top of your Christmas list. And until next time, keep it simple, keep it fun, and keep exploring. Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and leave us a review. Next, go grab our free Budget Travel 101 course. You'll find it in the show notes or at travelingfranklins.com. And join the community. The Lazy Budget Travel Tips Facebook group is ready and waiting for you. I'm excited to see you there, and I'll catch you in the next episode.